LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I
filed my return,
but I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though. I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here. Now, if you've ever had anxiety on a busy road or a motorway or a freeway, this session may be of use, because I was working with a client who, for most of their life, was a very confident, relaxed driver. But they had a couple of incidents on a major motorway, and that had them questioning if they were going to feel that way again. And a lot of anxiety is anxiety feeding anxiety, because if you feel anxious and then you're worrying about feeling anxious while driving, you get more anxiety and the spiral continues. So how we defeat this is to introduce resource states and all of the ingredients that almost kind of fuel the anxiety. We want to replace that with what fuels confidence and relaxation. So this is a session where actually the hypnosis starts with them imagining their worst case scenario on the roads and still feeling relaxed and calm and confident, i.e. resourceful in that context, and then transitions to a local road that's still challenging for them. And then we have that on repeat until the idea of being on that road doesn't feel confident, doesn't feel exciting or enthusiastic. It feels boring. It feels mundane. It feels kind of, oh, when can this be over? Rather than, I can't do this. And that's a big change, because the ideal way to break a phobia is to give the client an experience of feeling the exact opposite of anxiety. And for a lot of people, the opposite of anxiety isn't confidence. It's neutral, it's ambivalence, it's boring. And that's why this strategy is used for this particular client. So if you have a fear of driving on motorways or busy traffic, I remember when I first moved to London, I felt driving in central London very daunting because I hadn't had any experience of doing that. Now, I wouldn't think twice about doing that, but it did feel for a while outside of the comfort zone. So if there's any driving that feels beyond your comfort zone, you might get some value from this session. Just remember, though, that this session was created for an individual. Some of the suggestions might be perfect for them and not quite right for you. So bear that in mind as you listen to this. And if you do like the idea of working with me directly to have a bespoke session, then check out my website, adamcox.co.uk, or look in the description of this podcast and you'll see links there to book a free consultation call. But for now, you might really get some value from this session anyway. So find a quiet, comfortable place, ideally in an environment where you're not going to be distracted or disturbed. Relax and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in a feeling of quiet confidence. And as you exhale, feel a sense of release of any tension, any stress, any worries. And as you breathe in, imagine breathing in a pure feeling of resourcefulness, And then scan your body for wherever worry or anxiety is hiding. And sometimes it's the head, or the chest, or the gut. And just allow yourself to give permission for that to be released. Each breath takes you deeper and deeper relaxed. As your body relaxes, your imagination awakens. And I want you to go back to a memory of a new car. And maybe you picked up that new car from a dealership. Or maybe it was somewhere else. And I wonder if you can reconnect with that feeling of excitement or enthusiasm. A moment where you couldn't wait to drive. And maybe you can remember what the keys look like. Maybe you remember that smell of getting into that car. But I wonder if you can rekindle that feeling. Rekindle the feeling of wanting to drive, not because you had to, but because you wanted to. You were choosing to. And maybe you can think of a time that you wanted to drive at least an hour or more. Maybe it was to see someone, or get to somewhere, or do something important. Driving wasn't the point. Driving was a means to an end. And sometimes you've driven where it didn't even feel like driving, it just felt like something automatic, effortless. There would have been times when you were driving when your mind needed to solve a problem. And you were so focused on that. Driving was almost something that barely registered on your radar. And I want you to connect with feelings of exciting driving, fun driving, enthusiastic driving, but also mundane, pragmatic driving, autopilot driving. Imagine yourself behind the steering wheel during that pragmatic, mundane, dare I say it, boring driving. And just imagine, while you're in that state, that driving doesn't need effort or too much concentration or focus. Just imagine you see a slip road. Still connect with that feeling of not enthusiastic confidence, but that pragmatic confidence. You just know how to do this. And join the slip road that feeds into a motorway. And I want you to imagine this motorway is fast-moving traffic. And that's fine. And when you feel comfortable driving on the motorway of this fast-moving traffic? Let me know by nodding your head. That's it. And then just imagine the traffic continues at the same speed. It just gets busier, and you've had that many times. Stretches of road that were empty, and then certain junctions at certain times of the day make things busier, but still fast moving. So imagine feeling that pragmatic confidence as this motorway is fast moving and busy. And just imagine the weather changes, as it often does. Blue skies turn cloudy, cloudy turns rainy. And just imagine feeling that boring, mundane confidence of driving on a busy motorway, surrounded by cars, but perhaps big lorries. Imagine the windscreen wipers going back and forward. And you're more interested on what music is playing, what you're going to do when you get to your destination. But even if there is traffic and lorries and rain, your inner dialogue is like, so what? I can handle this, just like I have done so many times before. And then you imagine it gets windier, really windy. So windy you see those lorries swaying a bit. And it doesn't bother you because you evaluate just how much space there is between the vehicles. But even if they sway, who cares? There's more than enough space on this motorway for everyone. Imagine seeing that there's a stretch without a hard shoulder. And just imagine thinking that even if you needed to pull over, the lack of a hard shoulder doesn't make it that much more challenging. Because in spaces on motorways without a hard shoulder, the cameras are constantly checked. If someone breaks down there on a space on a motorway without a hard shoulder, there is instant assistance provided. Not that you would need to, but even if something happened, you are minutes away from help. You choose the speed that you travel, the lane you travel in, the music you listen to, but more importantly, what you focus on. Where focus goes, energy flows. Imagine feeling the looseness of your hands on the steering wheel, sending a message to yourself. You can be relaxed when driving. Imagine tapping your feet or the fingers on the steering wheel to the rhythm of whatever music is playing, sending a message to yourself that driving is a low-stakes activity. The fact that you're driving alone just means that you can have the music on as loud as you want. You can play whatever music you want without thinking of other tastes in the same car. And when you can connect that feeling of empowered choices on that busy motorway, in the wind and the rain and the fast-moving traffic, just let me know by nodding your head. That's it. I want you to get a sense that by feeling confident, calm, and that pragmatic, mundane confidence in the worst conditions, your brain feels like you are recalibrating what it takes to make driving challenging. Imagine staying on that same motorway, seeing the motorways merge into one, seeing a contraflow. And I want you to think of so many areas of your life where anything that becomes more challenging makes it more fun and more interesting. Connect to that thing that, if it's too easy, it feels too boring. This isn't about anxiety, it's about stimulation. And maybe you play a game with yourself. When your focus is on something else, your emotion reflects it. If you look for bad weather conditions, if you look for confining traffic, your body will react. If you look for open spaces, if you look for unusual cars, strange colors, if you think of those childhood games you used to play in a car, perhaps you can recall that time was distorted. A game of I Spy meant that 1 hour journey felt shorter. And then just imagine the conditions improve. The dark clouds make everything lighter by going away. The rain stops. Just imagine the traffic gets lighter, still fast moving, and just feel that sense of freedom, liberation, and choice on the open road. And then just imagine you see a sign. This motorway you're imagining, just in your imagination, has a slip road, a junction that joins a local dual carriageway close to you. This may not happen in reality, it doesn't have to. You get to decide how you think of it. And going from that fast-moving motorway to that dual carriageway, notice how relaxed you feel. This feels like a walk in the park. This feels well within your comfort zone. This feels manageable, doable. It feels almost too easy. And I want you to imagine setting yourself the challenge of going up this dual carriageway to a particular junction and then turning around and going back in the opposite direction, up and down. Or maybe it's 2 junctions or 4 junctions or more. And I want you to imagine you set yourself the challenge to keep driving up and down that dual carriageway. Not until you feel confident, accomplished or proud, but until you feel bored and frustrated. You've gone up and down this dual carriageway so many times with no reason to do it other than to get this feeling of boredom. And I want you to imagine maybe it's 5 times up and down, or 7 or 9 or 11 or 20. But just imagine all different conditions, weather, traffic, up and down this dual carriageway, you know the one. Imagine driving alone. And I wonder how many times you would have to imagine doing that until you're bored and just want to return home. So keep on imagining doing that until that feeling of driving that stretch feels boring and pointless. That's the finishing line. That's when that house of cards really starts crumbling down. And when you can imagine feeling bored, frustrated, a feeling of, I don't need to do this anymore, that you face down that nemesis. It's lost all power over you. When that feeling comes up, let me know by nodding your head. And you can distort time in your imagination. A 15-minute stretch of road can be 15 seconds. Keep on imagining going up and down, seeing those familiar signposts, landmarks. Signs, that's it. Feel that boredom, embrace the boredom. That's what success feels like. And then imagine it's the following day. And you need to go down that stretch of road. Notice how it feels not just slightly within your comfort zone, but well within it. Imagine 2, 3, 4 weeks go by. And imagine a journey that requires that. And you don't even think about the driving part. It almost feels like you've teleported to your destination because the driving was done on autopilot. No stress, no anxiety, no worries. Just doing what your brain already knows how to do. I want you to feel that every journey that you do is either reminding yourself that you can do it or recalibrating your comfort zone. You can claim your wins, and even if there are echoes of anxiety, that simply desensitizes you to the same thing, so that the next time is easier than the last. Whatever happens, the trajectory is moving towards a future where nothing phases you. That's it. So connect to that feeling. And then imagine leaving that stretch of that dual carriageway while feeling bored and driving back to your home. And just imagine that as you hear the sound of that car door closing, when you put the keys in the location you put them, notice how good it feels to feel like you're on the other side of that barrier. What once was the resistance now becomes the foundation. It's time to return to the present, taking all of these new thoughts, ideas, and associations with you. So take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Just wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, connect and calibrate into the here and the now. As I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you, starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of The Hypnotist. If you've enjoyed this episode or got some value from it, please give it a 5-star rating and review. And maybe you know someone that would also benefit from this particular episode, in which case share the episode with them so they can also get the benefit too. And if you would like to listen to this episode where it's just the hypnosis, so no intro, no outro, no explanation, just the hypnosis and completely ad-free, there will be a link in the description where you can subscribe at a very low cost and only get access to the hypnosis. So if that's of interest, please check that out. Thank you again for being a regular listener of The Hypnotist, and I'll see you again soon for more.